in the aftermath of such a tragedy, to be able to take him off the street and hold him accountable. I will say, in anticipation of some questions before I hand it over to Dr. Reed, and then Deputy Chief Wright will go over the facts of the case. I will say that there are some strong neighborhood associations that we're pursuing. There is no information at this time, that there is a gang nexus, so I anticipate that's a question because it's a conversation that I believe is being had in our community. There are minimally neighborhood associations. If any other associations exist beyond that, we're going to be at a point in the near future to be able to answer those questions. But today, we do not have anything to speak about on that point. I'll say as well that our ongoing relationship, not just with our school resource officers and principals and other school staff, teachers, and personnel, remains a strong one, but the relationship at the very top between FCPS and FCPD remains strong, and that's something I think our community should know and be proud of. We don't take these scenarios lightly. We're proud of the fact that our school system is safe, and we're all committed to keeping it that way, and the relationship is strong. So I'll turn it over to Dr. Reed first, and then Deputy Chief Wright will go over the facts of the case, and then we'll take any questions you may have.
Thank you, Chief Davis. I just want to thank our law enforcement partners for being such great collaborators. We were in touch with them from the very moment that we were aware of the situation, and our Chief Safety and Security Officer directed our staff to respond in a thoughtful way as we maintain the significant importance of safety and security for each and every one of our students and all our staff. I also want to thank all of our staff for their swift response and their continued response yesterday during school as we provided counseling services and support for students who were impacted by the taking of the life of one of our students. So again, want to assure our community that the safety of our students remains a top priority, and will continue to partner with our law enforcement partners, and thank you for your continued dedication and efforts.
Just to go over the facts of the case and what happened on Wednesday, shortly after 3:30, I believe the original call was at 3:37 p.m., officers from our Fair Oaks district responded to a call of shots fired in the area. Upon their response, within minutes, they located the victim and immediately rendered life-saving efforts until they were relieved by the Fire and Rescue Department. Unfortunately, after the Fire and Rescue Department transported the victim to Reston Hospital, he succumbed to his injuries. The officers that weren't engaged in the life-saving efforts immediately started a search for the gunman. They talked to several witnesses in the area. There is some surveillance video that's in the area. And I tell you this to tell you that there may be other witnesses that we haven't spoke to, or other evidence in video that we haven't gathered. And if you're in possession of any of that, we definitely want to hear from you as well. The manhunt continued that day. We were not able to locate the suspect at that time, but we were pouring, as you all saw that day, several resources at the investigation, to include our fugitive unit. We were assisted yesterday with tracking by U.S. Marshals, so we appreciate their assistance and partnership as well. Spoke to several associates of Delcid, but unfortunately we were still unable to locate him. Last night we received a call from his attorney, who negotiated for him to turn himself in. He turned himself in last night around 11 p.m., declined to make a statement to our detectives at that time, and he's being held currently at the ADC without bond. And with that, we'll take any questions.
I know you said there's no direct nexus yet with gang activity. What do you know about how well the shooter and the victim knew one another? I mean, what prior relationship was there, if any?
Yeah, we're certainly digging into that. That is definitely a strong part of our investigation to determine what the motive of this might have been. There was definitely a physical altercation between the parties prior to the shooter firing 3 rounds, 2 of which struck our victim. The third was shot at another victim who was not struck. There's obviously some ongoing knowledge of the parties to each other. We believe there's ongoing verbal disputes. We don't know if there was any prior physical altercations between the parties, but they were definitely known to each other. And we don't know, and we'll be looking into whether or not this was a planned to meet and have an altercation.
Yeah, that was my next question.
Yeah.
So you don't know yet whether that.
We're still investigating that.
And that they both plan to come to.
Yeah, detectives will be going through evidence, and between social media and electronics and all that kind of forensic technology they'll be digging into, that will help support what the relationship or what the intent may have been. Again, we'd also like to hear from anybody who has information about these parties, their relationship, and any previous knowledge of interactions between them.
And it seems very lucky that there's not a second victim.
Absolutely, we do believe that the shot that was fired at the second victim was intended to hit him. So, any other questions? Yes, sir.
Are you releasing the name of the 14-year-old?
No, by Virginia law, we would not do that.
Are you able to speak to which schools counseling efforts are being focused at right now?
We are focusing really counseling efforts primarily at Westfield High School and Herndon High School, as well as other high schools as this story is out in social media further. And as information from law enforcement is updated this afternoon, we'll be sending a note out to our families in the community.
Superintendent Reed, without naming this very young victim, can you share anything about his profile in FCPS? Just anything about how it's hitting those school communities, this loss?
So anytime a student's life is taken before its time is a tremendous loss for us. And the proliferation really of gun violence with our youth is a significant challenge for us across the country. So what I can say is that he was a student in good standing at Westfield High School, and our prayers go out to his family and all those impacted by this tremendous loss.
Anybody else?
Can I ask Mr. Vaccarello a question?
Sure.
We haven't had a loss quite like this in a while. We haven't seen, the kind of surge in gang violence that was apparent in the county some years ago. But what's your sense right now about, the prevalence of guns and how it makes your job more challenging?
So I'll echo what the superintendent said about guns in general in our society, but I don't have a comment of what my sense is. Rely heavily on the police department and their guidance to me in these activities. But we continue to watch it. We continue to staff it from our school security perspective and work very closely with our school resource officer. We have a lieutenant commander that sits in our office that oversees the program, and it's a direct communication daily.
Thanks. And Julie, I just want to put a little bit of a point on it. We're not characterizing this as a gang-related matter. So I think we have to be really careful about that. But there's certainly some neighborhood associations, like Chief Wright said, they're known to each other. A personal dispute was involved with a firearm. So that's something, like Dr. Reed said, that our nation is concerned about, that seemingly petty disputes are resolved with a firearm. So that's something that has us all concerned.
And all three of these teens were attending FCPS schools, Cruz-Delcid also?
Two of the three, our shooter, our now defendant in this case, recently graduated from Mountain View Alternative School.
And just to kind of summarize it, just to kind of wrap it up, there's some sort of personal relationship or personal thing between the shooter and the victim. And to your knowledge, not saying when you say neighborhood association, you just mean they know each other through. I guess I'm trying to get a better sense of the.
Yeah. So here we are. We're 48 hours away from this tragedy. We know that they are known to each other. We know there is some type of dispute between the three of these folks, these young people. Our victim who was killed, and the other victim who was escaped with his life. They are known to each other. They encountered each other in the community, and there was some type of dispute. We know that our defendant in this case, Cruz-Delcid, produced a firearm and discharged it, killing our victim, and narrowly our non-fatal victim narrowly escaped being killed himself. So as we get more information, particularly as it relates to relationships and other associations, we'll share it. But if we, I don't want to speculate right now.
And as far as the gun, I'm just curious, as we're talking about the proliferation of gun violence across Northern Virginia, was this a legally purchased firearm, a ghost gun? I mean, what do you know about that?
Yeah, I can't characterize the firearm yet, but that's something that we're exploring with our investigation as well. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am.
How is the almost victim in this case, how is the third person doing at this point? How are they
Yeah.
holding up right now? Do you know?
Well, so he was almost killed, but he's definitely a victim. So he's certainly processing it, and we have specialists from our Victim Services Division that are working with with him and his family, and as they also continue to work with our victim, our 14-year-old murder victim's family as well. And I joined Dr. Reed in expressing my condolences to the family, to the entire school community, and our promise as your police department is to hold people accountable for crimes like this that happen in our neighborhoods. Okay, thank you all.
Thank you all for coming out today. We will be posting the update for this on our blog shortly. You can also follow us online at Fairfax County PD for any